So I've said before, numerous times, said it before, we on the left, we need to talk more about economic policy and especially tax. And we need to find ways to be able to tackle this in a way that makes anyone, even if they have economically illiterate or just have no idea about tax except the fact that they know they have to pay it, we have to be able to tackle it and make it them understand it in a way that's relevant to them and understand how it affects them. And because if we can do that, then we would get a situation where people would vote to make taxes fairer. Because there's so many things that have gone through recently that sound fair in a way, like the marriage tax. That didn't really benefit working class families. It's mainly benefited a lot of the richer upper echelons of society in Britain, but it hasn't so much been a wonderful boon to like the middle class and the working class people that it was really sold as. And the sole worker tax, which was shone out by the Sun as helping the white van man, has not really gone and helped those people. Instead, it's gone to help massively dentists and big city lawyers who are, again, classed as, solo workers. I can't remember what the correct term is now. But yeah, and like I say, we've got to handle and take a handle on these things. Like I say at the moment, I really want to do a video on why it would be good to combine income tax with national insurance. Because, again, it's something I'm looking into, and it's definitely, from what all I can see, would make actually a good progressive policy. And I know that a lot of people said, oh my God, how would we fund the NHS? Well, we'd still fund it with that. Like I say, again, so many questions and stuff. And I understand a lot about the concerns about it, but this would actually be quite a good progressive tax to have. So, again, we're talking about tax. So, before we do jump into that again, please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you so much to all the people who do support the channel that way. So, this comes from The Guardian, and the title is, Making Sure the Big People Pay Their Taxes Would Be a Boost to Democracy. In June 2016, when I was researching an article for Vanity Fair, I asked Donald Trump if he was using tax havens to escape tax. I know a lot about tax havens, but I don't use them, he told me. There's a great incentive in many ways to keep your money in the United States. Fellow billionaires may chuckle, because they know this too. Following decades of attacks by special interests on the UK tax system, their goal, as the Texas Republican Congressman Bill Archer once said, has to be to pull it out by its roots and throw it away so it can never grow back. Last week, the investigative journalism body ProPublica released new shocking evidence of how easy it is for US billionaires to escape paying tax. Using leaks tax records, it reported that Amazon's Jeff Bezos, the publisher Michael Bloomberg, and the corporate raider Carl Icahn, and Tesla founder Elon Musk, and the financial investor George Soros all paid zero federal income taxes in some years. From 2014 to 2018, the richest 25 Americans, many of them metropolitanists, saw their wealth surge by more than $400 billion, while paying taxes worth just 3.4% of that. Meanwhile, the average American wage earns in their 40s saw their wealth rise by only $655,000 and paid roughly about $622,000 in tax. So how did the billionaires get away with it? Loopholes is one answer. Trump's tax advisors use copious gaps in real estate tax laws and stunts such as putting goats on New Jersey golf courses to qualify it for farmland tax relief. Another trick is to take a carefully primed asset currently worth almost nothing and push it into a tax-free retirement account just under the contribution limit on the account, like pulling it through the eye of a needle, in the words of South Dakota Trust Company owner Pierce McDonnell. Then, find a financial switch and watch its value explode, tax-free, once safely outside the account. There are many others, but the really big loophole is this. Lesser mortals pay tax on salaries. Billionaires avoid grubby salaries or even income. Instead, they own assets that rise in value and then rise, and those unrealized gains escape tax. Those richest 25 Americans owned $1 trillion in wealth in 2018, equivalent to the wealth of 14.3 million average Americans. Yet, they only paid $1.9 billion in personal federal taxes. The 14.3 million little people paid over $143 billion, or 75 times as much. In Britain, the situation is similar. Billionaires owned assets instead of earning income, and generally don't pay tax when those assets rise in value. We have many loopholes here in the UK, and here UK billionaires outdo their American counterparts. The weirdest is surely the archaic non-dom rule, a legacy of empire, where wealthy residents of the UK who can claim that their domicile is elsewhere only pay tax on their income that arises inside or is brought into the UK, so they carefully make sure that it stays offshore. The bigger British speciality is, of course, tax havens. We protect and nurture some of the world's biggest, from the Cayman Islands to the British Virgin Islands to Jersey. Americans also use our tax havens too, but they loom in a far larger British billionaires' tax escape strategies, often in a legal grey zone. Trump's main tax haven strategy, my investigation found, was part multiple corporations in Delaware and a US state boosting strong security and other offshore characteristics. So, what can be done? Well, there is no silver bullet, but with a few broad strokes and with a little appropriate exemptions for the little people, and this would be widely popular and very economically successful. First, abolish the non-dom rule as a sign that we are serious. Next, bolster the corporation tax, most of which is ultimately paid by the wealthier folk. Rishi Sunak admitted recently that George Osborne's cut to UK corporation tax rate from 28% to 19% had failed to bring in investment. These cuts have also failed to deliver growth, as Tom Berman explains in his new book, The Free Lunch Thinking. Sunak is pushing up corporation tax rates up to 25%. Raise this still further, meanwhile. The G7 leaders have also agreed on measures to including a global minimum corporation tax of at least 15% to try and tackle tax havens. The G7 deal faces many hurdles and leaves little for poorer countries, but it is at least a decent start. Complementing this by broadening a tried and true and tested financial taxations tax push is now new and on the way. Wealth taxes used successfully for years around the world are also essential too. If someone owns $1 billion in assets, in shares, gold coins, castles, whatever, a simple, say, 1.5 annual wealth tax earns about £15 million a year. The UK Wealth Tax Commission estimates that a 1% tax could raise more than £50 billion a year. That's the size of last year's extra health funding for COVID alone. Add to that the list of land value added tax and another kind of wealth tax. Equalised tax rates. If we taxed income from wealth at some rate as income from work, we could raise about 120 billion. We'd get double of what we get from corporation tax. And as we get braver, we should also aim to tax those unrealised gains. So, if a billionaire's wealth rises, they pay tax on that annually, whether or not they sell or release those assets. Some powerful Democrats in the US are now pushing for just this. In the UK, as in the US, the tax authority has been under attack. HMRC's staffing levels have fallen from 155,000 in 2005 to around 60,000 today. Estimates of the tax gap of uncollected taxes range from about 35 billion to a more credible 90 billion a year. Tax collectors repay their salaries many times over and reinvest in HMRC and equally focus on taxing the wealthy and multinationals. Finally, of course, to get serious about our crime-infested tax haven racket, this would not only shore up our tax system, our economy, and our democracy, but it would also be the greatest gift to the world right now, as humanity struggles to overcome the pandemic. And I really do believe this is why we need to get serious about talking about tax, because the more we understand this, the better it is. I mean, that figure there. Let me find it. Yeah, so that would be it. You know, they had the equivalent wealth of 14.3 million Americans, yet they only paid 1.9 billion of federal taxes. But we, those 14.3 million, paid 143 billion, or 75 times as much. Getting those figures for the UK would be incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable. And I think doing what is recommended here, of taxing like the wealth risers, having a wealth tax, would be fantastic things to push for as a leftist and a progressive. Oh dear, bless me. Oh dear, I knew I was going to sneeze then, but yeah. So I think those would be fantastic ways and fantastic things that we should push for progressive policies. And I've argued before for a one-off wealth tax to help pay for much of the stuff that has been costed of COVID. Like I say, a one-off wealth tax would pay for furlough about roughly 3 times over. So if it's going to do that, then why not do this annually? Why not it just be a one-off thing? Why not just have it annually? And I think getting rid of the non-dom rule would be a fantastic start. So this is something I really want Labour to seriously look at tackling, because this would be a fantastic way to say, oh, hey, you know how the Tories are talking about levelling up, but they're not talking about how much they themselves and all their rich buddies who fund their party are literally paying less tax than all of you in the north? That might be an incredible election tactic. And to say, hey, we're going to start making sure that they pay their fair share of tax. Because I think after the pandemic, I think a lot of people are really going to start taking that talking point seriously. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a link to a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, we'll see you all next time.